Hi, Orange Girl here with another scrapbooking process video for you. I am working with Flair from a Flair for Buttons today. I am also using two different cut files from the Cut Shop, and I'm using a bunch of Shimmerz paints. By the way, when you buy from Shimmerz Paints, please make sure you leave my name in the comments and you will get a little extra something in your order. So I'm starting off with this cut file called Hello Spring. It's by the Cut Shop, of course, and I love this design. I love the little flowers and leaves and all of the little extras. And you wouldn't have to do what I'm doing, but I decided that I would like to back each of these little, I don't know, designs with different pattern papers. And so I think all of the pattern papers that I'm working with today, I think are all by Dear Lizzy and her most recent collection. I cannot remember the name of it. I think it's something colorful or something like that. So I'm finding some pink and some blue for the flowers, and then some different greens for the leaves. And so I sped that up because, you know, you've seen people back files before. Gosh, easy for me to say. And so it's not that exciting, but I'm just gluing it down, cutting it, and moving on to the next thing. So I used pinks, yellows, and blues, and I'm going to continue with pinks and yellows and blues as we go here. So here is another cut file, and actually this is a 12 by 12 cut file, but I'm only using part of it, and it's called Up and Down. It's also by the Cut Shop. And what I have here is I have a picture that was taken from or on the last day of school, right after the kids left for spring break. So not the last day of school, but the last day of school before spring break. And all of those friends there and myself are excited and jumping because it is the last day of school. So this was actually a little video, and I took a snapshot from that, a screenshot from it, and I'm using that photo, which isn't the best quality, but it kind of doesn't matter because you get the emotion in it. I'm using that photo as my photo for this layout it's just going to be called Hello Spring Break. And so what I'm going to do is I found in the 6x6 pad, which is pretty much what I've used so far, except for the background obviously is a 12 by 12 page. I am fussy cutting some flowers out. I think I end up using some of the die cut flowers, and then as well as some of these fussy cut flowers from the 6x6 pad. So I'm looking for pink and yellow and blue, and I actually end up cutting out a little bit of orange. There's these little tiny orange flowers as well, which works out really well when I actually decide to use my mixed media. So that says yes or whatever, and it is a element from March's release, I think, from Colorcast Designs, and I don't end up using that, but I do end up using a couple other things from that same release, but that one doesn't make the cut. So what I'm trying to decide here as I am cutting flowers out and moving on to the next thing is kind of the basic design of my layout, which changes at least one more time before the end. So I decided that I didn't like just the white cut file. I wanted to add some color to it. So I grabbed a bunch of Creamy's products, and I am going ahead and using the packaging technique to add them to this cut file. I did off camera put gesso on the cut file so that I can move around the paint a little bit as I go with that packaging technique. I apologize that some of this is off camera. The majority of the actual cut file is on camera. I was trying to get closer so that you could see it a little bit better, and in doing so I cut off the side, so you kind of can't see what I'm doing with the packaging, but trust me, all I'm doing is putting the paint onto the packaging technique, or the package, excuse me, and then the technique basically is you take that and smoosh it on the page, and it's pretty simple. You've seen me do it before. You've seen other scrapbookers do it before. It's nothing I invented, of course. It's something that a lot of scrapbookers do. So that's a good example of just mushing it on the page. So when you add gesso to the paper before you start, it does a couple of things. It takes the water a little bit better, gives it less of a warp, but then it also, you can use it to move the paint. The paint doesn't soak in right away, so you have a little time to move it in a little bit. So the what I'm using here is I'm using almost all Creamy's products. The yellow is called Daffodil. The pink is called Berry Hot. The blue is Ride the Tide, and the orange is My Clementine. And those are basically what I use, except I do end up using a couple of, I think I use some mists towards the end to add some splatters over the top. I wanted something that was a little bit contrasting to the pastels. But I really like the look of this. They look pretty pastel, which is perfect for spring, and it matches the papers perfectly. So all I'm doing is I'm just spreading it out. I'm adding yellow in different areas and orange, and sometimes when the pink and the yellow mix, it creates a little bit of an orange as well. If you've never used these products before, you do, when they come, they're dry, and you need to put some water in them, and it activates it, and then you can use it. So here I am. I think that's Peachy Keen that I'm adding, and then I add some yellow school bus, maybe that's called, or No Yolking. I think that's No Yolking. I add that, and then the blue, I can't tell you, I'm sorry. I think it's something with ice in the title, but I could be wrong. And then this is Pink Stilettos, I think. So once I add the splatters, then I'm adding a little bit more of the creamies back, and I just kind of go back and forth until I get to something that I like. Excuse me. So in a second here, I'm going to set this aside and let it dry. And then when I come back, I am ready to start gluing some things down and work a little bit more on the design of my page. I think I might have even just left this overnight and then worked on it the next day. So these are the little things that I fussy cut and the embellishments that I pulled from the ephemera pack. That hello is also from the Dear Lizzy collection, and it comes, there's several words that come. There's some of them are white, I think, and some are that great gold. And so now my cut file is dry and I'm ready to start attaching things down, except I'm not sure still about the placement of the word break. And so I just put it on a little bit of packaging, and so I can move it around. The other thing that I go back and forth on, it's not the best photo, and sometimes when things aren't the best photo, I put them in black and white because it makes them look just a little bit better. But so I have a black and white photo, but I end up using the color photo in the end because I really liked, some of us were wearing some similar colors, and it makes the pinkish purple color that I'm using here, it makes it pop out. So I end up using that. You'll see when I switch the photo here in a second. So I have all of these little, those are the little yellow or orange ones, the little, really little pictures. I decided that I wanted break at the bottom because I thought it was heavier, and so I wanted it below the photo, and I thought it kind of tied the whole title in, but I do end up changing that later because there was another part that I couldn't decide exactly what I wanted, how I wanted to do it, and I end up adding some more alphas, so I add more to my title. So now I'm going to glue down a lot of this so that I can do some stitching. So I know that my background is going to go kind of in the middle here, and I want the word spring to go in the middle, and I want the word hello to go in the middle. I've decided, at first you might have noticed that I put the hello over to the left and I put break over to the right, kind of a diagonal look, and I decided that for this one I'm just going to go straight down the middle. And I think the reason I felt like it looked better was because of that up and down cut file. I think it just looks better. So now I'm just going to glue everything down. So I sped this up quite a bit because it's kind of boring just to watch that. And then I believe I do this off camera. I add some stitching down each of the up and down cut files, the half circles. I add stitching there, and I use gold thread. So now that I've glued that down, I'm going to try again with the black and white or the color picture. And I'm just kind of going back first. I really wish I knew what I was doing right now. Oh, I decided that I wanted to back my photo. So I grabbed a couple of different 12 by 12 papers, and then I just ended up coming back to the 6 by 6 pad and using some of those. So I'm adding this stripe because it has pretty much all the colors that I have in this layout. I wanted it to be kind of roughed up a little bit, so I did some tearing. And then I add this behind my photo, and then I end up changing back to the color photo, but that's okay. I think I have it on the color photo too. So I'm kind of auditioning different background or different layers, and I end up going with this green and the really colorful one. And I don't think I end up using the flower page or the flowers that I cut out. I don't think I end up using that at all. So can you see how me and the person next to me are both wearing kind of a pinkish, I don't know, purple, kind of magenta shirt? Well, I decided in the end that I liked the way that pulled the flowers, and it kind of goes back and forth between, it just moves your eye back and forth between the flowers and the picture. So I end up going with the color picture. So now I'm placing everything back on, and I do this several times. I think it's funny that, I mean, I haven't done the stitching yet, but I'm going to remove this and do the stitching. So I'm going to move everything again. But I'm adding some butterflies that came in the March release from Coloringz Designs. And I love them. I just used 3 of them, I think, a blue one, a yellow one, and a white one. And now what I'm doing is I'm gluing everything together, all of my layers together, so that it moves as one, because I know at this point that I'm going to do some stitching, and so I don't want to have to move everything and put everything back completely. So there I'm going back and forth between where to put break. And I don't think I actually decide on that until after I've done my stitching. In fact, I think part of the reason that I did the stitching was because I couldn't decide. So I did the stitching, and then I ended up adding, and I thought the camera was running, Teachers Be Like, because I think that is what I put on line when I posted this little video, is spring break, teachers be like, kind of like that. And so I put that as kind of part of my title. And now I'm taking that same gold thread that I used for the stitching. You can kind of see that. You'll see it better in the close-ups. I used the gold stitching on that cut file, and then I'm adding gold thread a couple places behind things. And now I'm going back in, and I'm just adding those same colors that I used that were mists, and I'm adding those as a few extra splatters, so it's on the actual yellow paper as well as the cut file. And I'm almost done. I'm getting close. So once that dried, then I added in, it took me a little bit with this because I wanted to add more splatters to make it look like there were more layers. I added, oh, this is a gold color. Can't remember what it's called, but it's a Shimmerz product. And because I was using so many gold letters and then the gold stitching and everything, I thought I would add that. I was trying to show you that because it looks so pretty and shiny. Hopefully you can see it in the close-ups. Now I haven't decided at this point if I was done with embellishments, but so I toyed with putting a few things on, but I ended up cutting that out because I didn't end up putting anything else on. So now I have these drops, these Nouveau drops or whatever they're called, I can't remember, and I'm putting a few yellow, a few pink, and a few of the blue in various locations around, and I think I'm done. And then I decided I'm not done and I want to put some flair on. So I went into my flair stash and I add, I think, just one piece of flair eventually here. I'm looking for my kind of tealish blue for the date stamp because I really don't have anything black on here, so I didn't want to use a black stamp. Okay, so you can see I pulled out some of my flair, and I just want a flare button right there. And so I end up with one that says hello, and it has a pretty yellow flower on it. And I don't remember what that one is from, but I will link it definitely on my blog post so that you can know how to get to that one. And I've linked all of the shops below, so like the Etsy shops and the Coloringz shop and so on and so forth. So the Shimmerz too. So you should be able to get to those so you can get those products if you'd like to see them. So thanks a lot for stopping by. That's it. There's the final layout, and here come the close-ups. That's the flair that I ended up using, and some of the stitching you can see a little bit better in these photos, as well as the shimmers. Thanks a lot for stopping by, and I will see you again in my next video.